Hey, welcome back to our series of the Bible in 365 days. It is a bit late in the day, but we do have 24 hours to try and get through every single day within the challenge that we got from this King James version of the Bible. Today, our verses are a bit long. So on day 17, which is the 17th of January 2026, we go through Exodus chapter 7, verse 14 to chapter 12, verse 30. So here we see the plagues that was sent forth by God to Egypt. Now, I don't know if I'm just going to go through every single one of them, but they all have the exact same outcome. God asks the Pharaoh to let his people go. He does this request through Moses and Aaron, and the Pharaoh says no, blatantly. So in the first one that we get to see within these plagues, God instructs Moses and Aaron to turn the Nile River into blood. So Moses instructs Aaron to put his arm across the river, and it turns into blood. All the fish within the river die, and there's this stench that goes throughout Egypt. But the Pharaoh's heart is hardened because he still thinks this is just some magical sorcery, and he asks his magicians to do the same, which they managed to do. And Pharaoh's heart is hardened, and he does not let the people of God go out of Egypt. And there was blood in the Nile for 7 days. For a week straight, no one could drink fresh water from the Nile. So it was difficult for all the Egyptians who were living under Pharaoh during this time to find water for themselves and for their livestock. And then the second plague that comes is the plague of frogs, because yet again, Pharaoh is approached by Moses and Aaron, who asks him to let the people go, let the Hebrews go out. And at this point, they're still asking for the Hebrews to go and pray within the wilderness for just 3 days. That's all they're asking from the Pharaoh. And the Pharaoh says no. And this time around, Moses instructs Aaron to stretch forward his arm yet again, because remember, God had instructed Aaron to be Moses' prophet, and he would make Moses a god in front of the Pharaoh. So this is why this is happening. And Aaron does so, and thousands of frogs leave the Nile River, and they go into people's houses, they go into the palaces, they are just everywhere, and there's nothing anyone can do. And the Pharaoh speaks to his magicians yet again, and he says, just put your arms out so that the frogs can go. And a few frogs leave, so the Pharaoh is still kind of hardened within his heart, but he does instruct Moses and Aaron, listen, if you let your frogs leave, I will allow your people to leave. So Moses and Aaron promised to do so. They will speak to God to instruct all these frogs to leave, and they do so, and the frogs leave yet again. The Pharaoh switches on his word, and he instructs the people that they will not leave Egypt. His heart is hardened yet again. This time around, Moses and Aaron, they're instructed by God to go out to Egypt and look at the dust. Stretch out your arms, stretch out your hand, so that the dust may turn into lice and affect all the animals and all the people who are in Egypt. And by all the people, I just mean the Egyptians. All those who are of Hebrew descent from the house of Israel, they aren't affected by the plagues that are happening. And at this point, the magicians look at the Pharaoh and they tell him, hey, listen, this is something that's beyond what we can do now. Surely this God that the Hebrews are speaking of is one powerful God. And I think we should listen to these Hebrews and allow them to go pray to their God. But Pharaoh, yet again, refuses, does not let the people leave. Now, the next plague that comes in is the plague of flies. God instructs Aaron and Moses to do the same thing yet again, and this time flies come through, and you know how difficult it is to deal with one fly that is in your house. Now imagine thousands swarming within a nation to the point that none of you can actually see the sky. That's how bad this infestation of flies was. And Pharaoh concedes to Moses and Aaron and says, if you guys tell these flies to go away, or if you ask God to make these flies go away, I will let you guys go out into the wilderness. So Moses and Aaron intercede with God and ask him to remove all of these flies. But yet again, Pharaoh changes from his word, and he does not allow the Hebrews to leave Egypt. This time around, a plague comes where it is the death of beasts. So that means all of the cattle, the livestock of the Egyptians ends up dying, and yet Pharaoh still does not want to release the Hebrews out into the desert to go and pray. And now you have to think about it from this perspective of an Egyptian. All of these things are happening. So either you are going to have this fear or this respect about what these Hebrews are doing, because they are doing things you've never seen before through this almighty, powerful God that they have. And now another plague comes in. This time it is a plague of boils and blisters. So within this plague, you can actually see it on the skin of the Egyptians. All of the Egyptians, even the Pharaoh included, he gets boils and blisters, but still the Pharaoh does not allow the people to leave. And then Moses warns the Pharaoh that, listen, you are making things worse for yourself, to the point that there shall come this storm, one of the worst storms you have ever seen, that will be a hailstorm that will destroy everything and will end the lives of many people. But the Pharaoh does not listen to this warning that Moses gives him, and yes, that storm arrives. The plague of hail arrives, and not just hail, but hail that is also followed with fire, which led to the deaths of so many people within Egypt. And this hail only landed on the side of Egypt where the Egyptians had stayed. It did not reach the side of Goshen where all the Hebrews had been living. And yet the Pharaoh still does not allow the Egyptians to free the Hebrews to go out and pray to their God. And now God decides he's going to send the plague of locusts, and locusts come through and they ravish through all of the crops that the Egyptians had been growing, and they just run through it. They destroy every source of food that the Egyptians and their cattle had. And at this point, the Egyptians weren't going to go to the Hebrews and ask them for their grain or ask them for their food, because they had this certain view of them that they cannot really interact or mingle or intertwine with them, because they are herders. They are people who deal with cattle, who deal with moving cattle around, so they see them as dirty, as unclean, and they cannot be mixed with them. That's why all this suffering in terms of hunger is affecting them, because they aren't gonna lower themselves in their point of view to go and trade with the Hebrews. And now, once the plague of locusts is done, the Pharaoh, this time he's kind of afraid of what is happening. So he says to Aaron and Moses, please send these locusts away, and I will let you guys go out and pray. But you cannot leave with any of your cattle. All your cattle has to remain here. You may not go out with it at all. Just take the people and the children as well. But Moses tries to bargain with the Pharaoh and says, listen, when we go out to pray to our God, we have to go out and sacrifice something for it. And we will not know what to sacrifice until we get there. And we don't know the quantity of the sacrifice until we get there. So we need to take everything with us when we go out into the wilderness to pray to our God. But the Pharaoh refuses to allow this to happen, because in his mind he's thinking, if I let you leave with everything, you'll just run away with everything. And then there's a small portion here in chapter 11 where God has a message to all the Israelites. He tells them, I want you to go to the Egyptians who are surrounding you. Go to them and just ask for anything. Just ask for gold, ask for jewelry, and they'll give it to you. They will happily just give it to you. There will be no questions asked. They will give it to you. So the Hebrews, they go out into the lands of Israel and they do this, and they just ask for jewelry from the Egyptians, and the Egyptians just gladly give it to them. So this kind of explains the wealth that the Israelites will have, or the amount of gold that they will have, because Egypt was a place that just had plenty of gold, and now the Egyptians were just randomly giving it to the Israelites. And then the final plague is about to happen. But first of all, Moses threatens the Pharaoh in this one. So it's kind of a warning, but it comes off as a threat. So Moses tells the Pharaoh, listen, the firstborns of this land, man and beast, will die because of the actions that you are taking. And the Pharaoh does not take this seriously, even though we have seen so many things happen within Egypt through God's hand. The Pharaoh still does not listen. But the warning goes to the Hebrews, and they are instructed to follow certain rituals for what is going to come. So this is where their Passover ceremony began for the Hebrews here in chapter 12 of the Exodus, through the harsh hand of the Pharaoh. So in order for God now to finally deal this final move, or this finishing move, to help the Israelites get out of Egypt, he prepares them. He says, your year is going to start now. This is what you will consider as your new year. It starts right now. And he instructs them that 7 days from now, I want you to go and find a lamb within your livestock. Make sure it is clean, it's unblemished, and you will get lamb according to the amount of people who are living in your house. If you don't have a lot of people in your house, bring your neighbors in as well. So this is going to be a communal experience for us all as the people who believe in God, not just one person. And once we have come together, we will slaughter this lamb, and we will take its blood and pour it into these bowls, or like a sort of metal bowl, and we will take its blood and paint it on the sides of the doors, basically the pillars and the posts of the doors within our households. Make sure that every single person does this, every single Hebrew does this. For during the night I will come and visit all this land, and in any household where there is no blood of the lamb, there will be no protection. So if that house does not have the blood of the lamb on its doors, it will not be protected by the death that is about to come. And through that night, God's promise came true, for he went throughout all the land of Egypt and in Goshen as well, where the Hebrews were. And everyone who had the blood of the lamb on its doors, was protected. But throughout all of Egypt, where they did not follow God, they did not listen to God, every firstborn had died, whether it was from the house of the servant right through to the palace of the Pharaoh. The firstborn had died, and the firstborn of all the cattle had died as well. And there was this huge cry throughout all of Egypt, because you could imagine during the night households waking up and their sons were all dead. So this was the darkness that fell upon Egypt because of the hardening of the Pharaoh's heart. That God had to do this final move, as catastrophic and as tragic as it is, it showed the Egyptians how powerful God is, the God that the Hebrews were following is, for he had slain every single firstborn throughout every single Egyptian household and within their cattle as well. And that's where we will end with our readings for today. And may the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of the Father, and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with you now and forever. Amen.